Hi everyone, it's Michael, and I am so thrilled to be filming the bloom profile video for number 54 in my collection, my Brassolaeliocattleya Volcano Prince. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on lead-in here because I already feel like I've been waiting for this plant to bloom for an eternity, so let's just take a look together. Oh, she's so beautiful. You guys, I am so enamored with this plant. It just has so infinitely exceeded my expectations or the pictures that I saw of it. Now, I've actually been waiting to film this bloom profile till just the right moment. The plant has actually been in bloom for over a few weeks, but I wanted to wait because there are 3 separate flower spikes. There's this one, which has been open for a few weeks. These ones up here just opened, and you'll see it when I take you in for a close-up a little bit later, but there's a brand new flower spike emerging from here. So I really wanted to give you a snapshot of the varying stages of development. So now let's talk a little history and background. Now, I just referred to this as a BLC or a Brassolaeliocattleya, but you might also find this as a Wren-Catalanth. Now, if you are at all interested in lineage, the parents of this plant are the Catalanth Trick or Treat and the Wren-Catalanth Love Sound. Now, I purchased this plant back in October of 2018 from Norman's Orchids. I don't think it's still available there, but that's where I got it. And I projected that this plant would behave very similarly to number 28 in my collection, which I will link that bloom profile video below if you haven't seen it. And it did and it didn't. It did to the extent that it adapted to semi-hydroponics like that. I mean, just take a look at this root system. It is intensely established. It did it very, very quickly. It got really comfortable in semi-hydroponics very, very fast. But the interesting thing is it developed these beautiful new bulbs right here, and you can see they're quite sizable compared to the other older growths. The ones that I grew here did really, really well. They put out these flower sheaths, and then it just halted. It just stopped doing anything for quite some time. And that's because I wasn't offering it the appropriate light levels. It is quite dissimilar from number 28 to the extent that it requires really elevated light levels to produce healthy and successful blooms. Now, something else that I think is very noteworthy about this plant is how effectively it leveraged slow-release fertilizer. Now, if you haven't seen my slow-release fertilizer experiment video, I will link it below, but that process really set back a lot of my plants. It burned a lot of them just halted their development altogether, but not this one. This one took that fertilizer and it ran with it, which is evident, again, when you look at the growth of the new bulbs. It's so interesting because this is the growth that the plant came with, and these are the growths that I've produced. So you can see it really just took that fertilizer and created some very, very substantial new vegetative growth. In regard to the developmental timeline of this plant, I'm not quite sure I have an accurate read quite yet. And again, that's because I converted it to semi-hydroponics. It did very well. It threw out new vegetative growth, but then it just kind of halted because it wasn't getting high enough light levels to bloom. And as soon as I added that artificial light, again, my Spider Farmer LED grow light, which I will link the video of that below, this immediately threw out all of its flower spikes. It was just waiting for the appropriate light levels to do that. Now, having said all of that, the first flower spike really appeared October 17th, but it did not go into bloom until December 13th. So from the moment you see that flower spike until the moment it blooms, it's about a 2-month incubation period. As always, this video will serve as a living reference point, so anytime this plant blooms, anytime a flower spike appears, I will update the description of the video so you can see exactly what the timeline looks like. Now, the most exciting part, let's go in for a closer look.
In regard to the formation of flower spikes, sheaths appear at the top of new growths. From there, a spike will emerge with a varying number of blooms. What we're looking at has 6 incoming blooms, but the very first flower spike to bloom on this plant only had 2. The size of each individual bloom is more substantial than I expected. These flowers are about 3 inches wide and put on quite a fabulous display. In regard to coloration, both the foliage and the blooms are absolutely stunning. The foliage is a shade of bright green, and the blooms themselves are a vivid shade of mimosa orange. It's like a little ray of sunshine. They are such a noteworthy pop of color.
Now, speaking to the fragrance of this plant, there really is no discernible fragrance whatsoever. And I mean that. Sometimes when you have a non-fragrant orchid and you really put your nose up into it, you get the slightest scintilla of a floral something. You don't get anything from this plant. It is truly just super, super beautiful, but it doesn't smell like anything at all. Now, in regard to bloom duration, it's generally said that it's going to be around 2 weeks, but these ones have been open for over 2 weeks, and they don't show any signs of fading quite yet, so I'm hoping that they just stay in bloom for a little bit longer. I would love it if it's maybe 3 to 4 week bloom cycle. That would make me super happy. Now, it is said that these will bloom up to twice a year, generally between spring and summer, and then again in fall. Mine is blooming in winter, but again, I added that artificial LED grow light late in the game, so I think that's why they're coming at this time. But I think if I get this on a more regular cycle with the appropriate amount of light all year round, that's generally the cycle that it will observe. I am just So in love. I think she is so, so beautiful. And you know I keep talking about it, but I am so late to the LED light party. I wish I had embraced artificial light sooner because the blooms would have come so much sooner. So if for any reason you are hesitating, if for any reason you are avoiding using artificial light, let me just tell you from experience, after 2.5 years of trying to grow them without any artificial light sources whatsoever, I am seeing such a significant increase in my return on investment with all of my plants by just leveraging it. This plant could not be grown in a domestic environment without it. It would not have bloomed for me. So that's just my 2 cents. That's just my thought process on it. And I do think it's well worth the rewards. And that's pretty much it. Thank you, as always, for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Be sure to support one another in the comment section because I am so seldom available to do so. Don't forget to click subscribe and have a beautiful rest of your day. Mwah! Bye, guys.